Our guest today is actress and voice actress Candy Milo from Looney Tunes and about everything else you've ever seen in cartoon format. Candy, can you hear me?
How are you this morning?
I'm doing really good. And I got to tell you, this is such a cool thing to be able to do because I've heard you in so many different productions. And I'm always amazed when I go, oh my God, she did that too? And she did that too? And the amount of characters that come out of one human being is just amazing.
Well, I like to say that these are all the little reasons I live alone, that sometimes they come out without being asked. And I don't know how this all began. I mean, I know how the career part of it began. And I just don't know how the voices began. And I think there's a part of me that will say they've always been there. They've always, and you know, who knows? I haven't delved into it, but of course, Saturday mornings and after school, I watched cartoons. And I was really little in the 60s. So there was very limited cartoons, but more than that, there were the Three Stooges and the Marx Brothers. And those, I was so attracted to those shows. And to me, that's what Looney Tunes is. It's the animated version of those two shows. And I think that there's something in that vibe that resonates for me, because I think if people look at my resume, I'm not playing normal people. I'm playing boys. I'm playing crazy grannies. I am the loud, fast, funny. I am Curly of the Three Stooges. I am not. It's why somebody said, why don't you voice a ton of video games? And I said, well, I can never get hired because I can't do the voice. And they said, but it's just your own voice. And I said, yeah, but have you heard my real voice? In my real voice, I sound like a cartoon. I can't sound like a soldier. I mean, I would be the first person that they'd kill in a video game, because it'd be like, take this one out. She's weird. She's weak. So I think that I was always born to do these these hyperactive, crazy characters that I think live in my brain.
I love the idea that you can do so many things and you'll show up to a certain show and they'll go, hey, can you give us another voice while you're there? And you're doing one character, and then the guy behind the mic goes, hey, this other actress didn't show up. Could you do this?
Yeah. And that is actually happened, where there was particularly a show called Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. And it was a Cartoon Network, a Warner Brothers show. And I played Madame Foster and Coco and Cheese. And there were times when I was reading against myself. And I like to say that because every character is a part of me, because I am that weird, that there is something in them. And in my brain, they are distinct personalities. They are completely different. So of course, Coco can talk to Cheese and Cheese can answer back, and Madame Foster can cut in. And because they are three separate people that I am reading on a page out loud. And I don't think that there's a magic. I do think, thank you, whatever, that I have an ability to change my voice. And I think that you know this. My dad was a stand-up and a singer. So I grew up with a sense of timing. And my singing is what I think helps me create a myriad of voices, because I can change my voice like a singer on the drop of a dime. I can do all of my characters going down the row. And again, little reasons I live alone. That's not the sign of a well mind, but it is what I do. And it's weird, but it's fun.
I don't know if it's weird. I think my daughter has a bunch of stuffed animals. And I used to have all these conversations, and I'd be in the front seat and she'd go, hey, I want to talk to Goro. I want to talk to Chip. And I would be like spacing and doing these voices and having these full on conversations. So when I wrote the children's book, Chip and Goro, there are like 8 characters, and somebody heard me read it in a in a library and they go, hey, why don't you come to the studio and do it? And I'm like,
Yes.
all right, whatever. And I showed up to the studio and the guy goes, where's everyone else? I said, well, I'm it.
Right.
And I was doing the voices back to back and you lose yourself in it. And I
Yes,
think
you
it's
do.
just it's ability, but it's also some nonsense that some people are able to do where you're not even there anymore as a person. The characters are there.
That is the only way. And the fact that you found that I call it kind of the voiceover nirvana, where you feel like you are so into Chip or Boral, like you're so into the characters that you created that you lose yourself in them. And I would just correct the wording. You found yourself in them because each of those characters either reminds you of those precious moments with your daughter in the back seat that you will never forget. And it gets to bring that wonderful sense memory back. But these are also deeply ingrained a part of you. And this is a little part of your personality that maybe was when you were young. Maybe it's that vulnerable part of us all. Even the meaner characters that I do, for Warner Brothers, I voice Witch Hazel. And there's such a tender part of that loud, crazy witch because she is the less attractive or the uglier, quote, air quotes, that she thinks she is, the more gorgeous she believes she is. And it's very important to her to be considered to be beautiful. And I just think that there's something very vulnerable about that. And it helps me color that acting when I play her getting excited about getting smashed in the face so that she looks more beautiful to herself. I just think there's something about that. And the art of voice acting is a craft among crafts. It's something that you have to kind of learn how to do. And it's based off acting. It's all acting. Everything that we do, from commercials to film to TV, it's all acting. This just has a specialty where we have like 5 inches between our chin and our clavicle to get across all the emotions that we need to get across,
I find that it's an amazing thing. And I also realize there's a certain psychotic concept of it. Like my son, that I have twins and my son's autistic, and every once in a while I'll shift into one of those voices when I'm talking. And then he'll say, for example, I'll go, he'll be talking about something. I'll go, oh, you're very funny. I love when you do that. And he'll go, no, Goro. And he immediately knows the voice and he considers that a person, and
yes.
I go, you're irritating me, Guru. Stop talking, and it's just so unusual, but it's also, they exist. And it's
yes.
and I don't know if it's the ability to segment your brain a certain way, but to begin to stop and start a character and have conversations between both of them and being able to cut them off perfectly and do 3 voices talking to each other simultaneously. It seems like an insane thing to be able to do, but it also seems very natural.
And it is. And I think I'm not quite sure how to teach that. Like somebody had said, gosh, you should teach. And I think I'm just a terrible teacher because I don't know how I do it. Like, I don't know what it is. I just know that also years can go by and you could say a voice and I can call it up because I know that person, because I made that person, and that person lives in my head. And maybe I haven't thought about, like I did Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. I guess I do a lot of alien animation and a lot of comedy animation. And somebody had said, can you do Crystal? And I thought, yes, I can. Yes, I can. And it would be as if Marilyn Monroe was dropped in the 60s, yo. And I thought, oh my gosh, it may not be perfect, but I remember her. And it was 22 years ago that I did that role. So I think that I don't know how it happens, but I do know that it happens. And I pray that it keeps happening.
It's so amazing when you're able to, the minute you did a voice from, like, let's say a couple of years ago, and you just hear it, you're going, okay, I got it. Right. And the hard thing is people don't realize you are torturing yourself trying to get these characters right. Your voice, for example, after being in a studio, I walked out of the studio after 8 hours and I couldn't talk. I was
Mhm.
like, did I permanently hurt myself? And people don't realize you can damage yourself by being. Now,
Absolutely.
do you think directors and people like that are now aware of what the damage that could be caused, or do you think, oh, we just want to get it?
I think that they are, a lot of them are ex-voice actors that are voice directing now. And I think that they really get it. And what's really quite wonderful is that when I worked with Pete Browngardt and Alex Kerwan being directed, and the crew at Warner Brothers in The Day the Earth blew up, when we were actually in the booth, and we record before they draw and they draw after we record. When we did that, Pete kept saying, and this is okay on your voice. And I thought, wow, I think they're very aware, because what we have found in Eric Bauza, who's doing both Porky and Daffy, what we found is that it's very easy for him, but there have been so many people that could only do one of Mel Blanc's voices, and they were hurting themselves. Like Yosemite Sam is not an easy voice.
No.
Taz is not an easy voice. Foghorn Leghorn is not an easy voice. And you could blow your voice out doing that. But thank goodness that we picked a voice for Petunia Pig and Granny that are kind of in my sweet spot now, and that it's easier. But I still warm up as a singer before I do any session. And I got up super early to vocalize and warm up before I started any interviews today. I honestly do every day, because it's too old to fix. Like right at this point, if I rupture a vocal cord, I would possibly be out for 4 months. And it is, and if I wanted to work again, it's 4 months of silence. It's not 4 months of rehab. The only way to rehab something when you harm your vocal cord is absolute silence. And I would be really hungry at the end. It would be very bad for me to be out. So if I know I'm going to talk a lot, or I'm going to be silly and do the voices and have energy, that I vocalize in the bathroom, in the shower. I do.
Well, you got to prepare. I can understand that. Now, the hard thing for me is just recently, I'm also an attorney. And I know with AI and everything else coming out, and when James Earl Jones basically sold his rights to his voice in perpetuity, and his family gets paid, and I think that's fantastic that you can push this down. Now, for you, you're going, I've done a lot. I have a catalog of voices. Have you even thought about that in the future? Have you talked to your estate attorneys and go, well, I'd like, or are you going, I don't want anything to happen?
I think I don't know what kind of a barrel we're in. I have, because I'm working, I don't know who's cataloging me. I know that there are a couple of actors out there trying to start banks where they can make money off of our voices, but we make some money. I think that's incredibly wrong. And it's usually people who haven't been able to have a success in the industry trying to make money off of those by banking people who also don't care. But I have a daughter that is an unbelievable actress that sounds just like me. So I think it's a Mel Blanc, Noel Blanc son. I think that she could do my voices, so you don't really need to bank me. But I have started to think about claiming rights to my voice. The sticky thing is that there are several actors that we have replaced if they've passed away or they've quit. And I just don't know what rights I would have to have copied them. Now, look, I've copied June Foray's, and I just think that it's a kind of a slippery slope, and we're going to have to see, which is why, honest to goodness, I think that this 2D movie is so important. I think the day the Earth blew up is so incredibly important because it is actors doing voices, really great actors. Also, Lorraine Newman and Peter McNichol as the unsung heroes, Fred Tatasciore, unsung heroes in the group with us. And Eric Bauza and I are the main characters, and we're getting a lot. But 2D animation, the amount of work that went into that,
Yeah.
how it's the old Warner Brothers rich colors. It's so funny. It's so well drawn. It's Bob Clampett's work. It is Ruth Clampett has a cameo as the waitress in one of the scenes. It's just an amazing conglomeration. And we're thinking this is what the human condition requires. We require real art by real people collaborating, laughing together. And I'm hoping that it reawakens the difference between AI and copying voices and original art, because I heard one of the new studio owners say that they will not be hiring artists, they'll be hiring programmers. But remember that the programmers can only program the original art, that somebody had to create that. And if you get rid of us, then everything is just robotically generated. And I will tell you, when I've been in the theater, little kids can tell what doesn't look real and what looks real. They absolutely can tell.
There's a huge difference between a cartoon and something that, for example, like the most recent Mufasa, The Lion King. I mean, while I loved it, there's a huge difference. It's not like that 60s, cartoon concept where they used to do cells and everything else. But it's amazing that you could see that, but that's more of a movie than, let's say, and I'm going to say it, a cartoon. It's not, the stuff that Disney's putting out is amazing, but it's not a cartoon.
Right.
It's children's entertainment, but it's definitely not hand drawn. It's not that feeling. You lose it. And I mean, I hope it never goes away.
Right. And I do too. And I think when people see the difference, there was another animated film that they were promoting the same time ours was airing. And I will tell you that every child in the audience I saw it with talked through that entire trailer. They couldn't hold their attention. And there was one piece that was the original from the cartoon. It looked exactly the same, but everything else was green screen and CGI. And it was actors. So it's a live action animation. And it was actors and then all AI and CGI, all AI background actors, all fake backgrounds. And those kids talked throughout that entire trailer. And you could hear a pin drop except for laughter when our movie came on. And I thought, they're not interested in, and I don't know if it's their brains or their eyesight, but they could tell that nothing was real and that they would have rather just watched the cartoon version of that movie, that they weren't really interested in the live action animation thing. And and that's all I can hope, is that we want human interaction and we want human drawn things. And I don't think you can hold a candle between these CGI things and this Looney Tunes movie. This is a full length animated film. It's a cartoon that is loud, fast, and funny. It's about bubblegum and butt cracks. It is silly. It's Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. I play the Dean Martin, the straight man in this. And I think that there is a strong difference to what we're doing and what's coming out. And I think that it's cheaper to do CGI and AI. I just don't know if it's the way to go. I don't know if it's it. And I've done a lot of CGI and I think it looks really great, but I don't know about full-length features of AI on a big screen in movie theaters. I don't know if it works,
It takes the fantasy out of it, and I can get it.
Agreed.
Now, you did a ridiculous amount of interviews alone today already, and I can imagine, that for example, every time you're on something, they go, do the voices. And you're so used to doing it, but they would never say that to like, hey, Tom Hanks, could you do Forrest Gump right now? They never hit them up to do these actors. And you get hit up all the time. And I know it's part of the job, but sometimes you go, okay, dance, monkey dance, I'll do it.
I honestly, one of the great things about sort of where I am in my career now is I do a lot of Comic-Cons, which I never thought that I would ever do. But I also thought I would never do voice acting. I do these Comic-Cons, and many times we go to communities where we're in a city where people have spent all their money to get into the Comic-Con, and all they really want to do is meet you and say hello. And they don't have any money to buy anything, and we're selling our autographs, and it's fine. And just the delight on their face. And now I see why my friends like Bill Farmer who plays Goofy for Disney, and he's done it for years, why we'll just go into the voice. And it's the smiles.
It makes people happy.
Somebody will say, goodness, I was a latchkey kid and I came home to Dexter's Lab, or I was this, or I was that, or this show helped me. My parents were divorcing. And we're going back 20 or 30 years, and this is men and women and kids. The look of joy is kind of what we do. And when we do this in a studio into a microphone, and then 2 years later it airs, we don't get the satisfaction of anybody knowing that we did the voice. We're not the Simpsons where they have been out saying, I do this and I do this and I do this. We just kind of, animation Saturday mornings, we just kind of fade away. And so I will always just if somebody passes by, I'll whip into Granny and say, oh my goodness, dearie, are you cutting into line? Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And it's easy to do, and it's fine. But yes, I will do it at the drop of a hat, because it makes somebody just grin. And I can do one line. It's easier than trying to tell a joke when somebody says to you, be funny. It's easier for me to just go, well, I don't know. Or, oh, hello, gorgeous, Witch Hazel. Woo, you're so gorgeous. It's easy. It's easy to do it, and to do it for the joy. It's absolutely wonderful. And I guess that's what we are. One guy that used to say that we're nothing but carny performers. And I would say, you talk about you. I'm a little bit different than a carny performer. But in that instance, we are carnival barkers when we're doing our little voices, and it's never weird. And I always do them if somebody asks. And the good news is they never ask in the general public, because nobody knows who I am, which is the anonymity has been really great.
Well, I can't tell you how much fun this was.
Thank you so much. You're so lovely. This has been really wonderful to talk to somebody who understands the industry from all the perspectives that you do and all the life experience you bring to your career. It's been wonderful for me to talk about acting. And I do want to say that I'm thrilled to be a part of the Warner Brothers family and to be one of the classic voices, because there's actually not enough women doing it. So yay me.
Well, it's great talking to you, Candy. I look forward to talking to you, and good luck with the movie, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. I'm going to take my son.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful time. And just know that there's a part of me that is waiting for you to hear the butt crack line.